So I think it's very rare for most of Gator Nation to be in agreement on something, but man, I think just about all of us are feeling pretty uneasy about recruiting right now.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. Hope you enjoyed your long weekend. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And like I said, I think that most Florida Gators fans right now feel pretty uneasy about recruiting, just where Florida currently stands. On 24/7, they're currently ranked 67th in the country in recruiting. Yeah, for 2025. On 3, they're 55th. Not the best, right? Because it's just not. And look, I think that we can have answers about some things, but still not feel good about the current state of recruiting, right? Like, we know some of the reasons that Florida hasn't landed some kids. NIL, win games, whatever that is. We know it. We understand it. Doesn't mean that we have to feel good about it, right? If I'm playing one-on-one with LeBron James and he shuts me out, he wins 21-0. I know why he did it. I'm still not going to feel good about it, but I know why he shut me out 21-0. I get it, right? Like, you can have answers to questions and still not feel good. Simple as that. Also, by the way, we've been hammering recruiting updates as often as possible for the insiders. So if you want to join the insider program, the link's in the description below. Whether you're on audio or YouTube, it's in the description. But for Florida, the answers, you need to win games. We've had multiple recruits come out and publicly say, I need to see what Florida does this year. Hilton Stubbs is one of those kids. He is. And I understand. Committed to Miami last week. Recruiting ain't over till it's over, right? Recruiting ain't over till pen hits paper. So until, if Florida goes out, beats Miami, and wins some big games, I think they're right back in it, truly. I don't care about the NIL stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. I do care about it, but saying, oh, he committed to the school because they gave him a bag doesn't faze me, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we know for a lot of kids, they need to see what Florida does, because this isn't some new thing that Florida is dealing with right now. You look at the end of last cycle. Let me take you back to early mid-December, right? Florida was dealing with it then. Jameer Grimsley, currently a Florida Gator, still in his true freshman year, but he came to Florida through the transfer portal. Why? Because in early mid-December, when Jameer Grimsley was trying to make his final decision and he was down to Florida or Alabama, he was publicly saying, hey, part of it is I don't know about Florida's coaching staff, how long they're going to be there. I don't want to commit there, have them there my freshman year, and then they're gone, and then I'm in the portal. Stuff like that. I don't want to deal with that. Coaching stability is an important part for me here. And of course, he committed to Alabama. He went to Alabama. He was already committed to Alabama. And then he went to Alabama. And then Nick Saban retired. And that completely shot the coaching stability right into the sky, right? Then Jameer Grimsley came to Gainesville. And myself included, all of us went, oh, that's great, that relationship building, that's awesome, good job. And I'm fine with that. However, one, that should not be your preferred method of recruiting is, we're just going to keep the relationship alive. And then if they hit the portal, they'll come to us. Pop Howard did it. Jameer Grimsley did it. Cormani McClain did it. Look, it works. That's fine. But that's like peppering in some positivity in your class. You need to still land a lot of these high school recruits, right? You win games and you win these recruits. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying you're going to flip every kid, but you win football games and you're going to instill a lot more confidence. Because with this schedule, I think if you can win 8 or 9 games this season for Billy Napier, which I'm not saying that that's my expectation, it is not. But if you can win 8 or 9 games this season, you're completely going to get rid of the hot seat discussion for at least a year, right? And in that year, you'll have DJ Lagway as your starting quarterback and make some moves. But I think that if you win this game, you completely table that hot seat discussion. Especially if some of those games you win. If you beat Miami, if you beat Florida State, if you beat UCF, all 3 are winnable games. Florida will not be favored in Miami or Florida State. Just unless Florida State plays way worse than their expectations. But I think that Florida will be favored against UCF. Won't be favored against Miami, Florida State. If you can sweep the state, you've got a lot of selling points there for a lot of in-state kids that are going to be committed elsewhere. Like you could do the DJ Pickett. He's never really had Florida at the top. He said that he's going to officially visit on August 31st. We don't know if that's still going to happen because initially he was supposed to commit in October and then he's moving it up to July 17th. Will he shut it down? Will he stick with the not scheduled because I don't think it's officially scheduled, but what they're shooting for, that August 31st, will he go still on the visit? If Florida wins that game and then Florida wins a couple more games, does he keep the door open for them? I don't know. We'll see. But win some games and you win some of these recruits. Then there's the NIL part here, where look, I know that it's frustrating to not get kids. And I will say this, it's frustrating for me to hear when Florida Gators fans, when a kid commits elsewhere and they go, oh, well, they just paid more, like whatever, they're chasing the bag, whatever. Not every kid that commits elsewhere is chasing the bag. Okay. Sometimes you're just not good enough, whether that's recruiting or on field. Sometimes you're just not good enough. And that's why you didn't land a kid. Okay. Sometimes it's up in the bag on kids. There was a kid that committed last week. I won't say to who. I can tell you Florida was not recruiting him. But he committed somewhere else. Got a lot of money. Okay. I was given the amount and I was like, that's crazy. Okay. Because it is. He's a high 3, low 4 star, and he's getting mid 6 figures was the amount. Insane. Okay. Sometimes kids just aren't worth that kind of bag. And I understand that. Like, I respect some of the time when Florida goes, you know what? We're not going to get involved there. Like, we're not going to get into a bidding war for that kid. We're not going to get into a bidding war for a player at that position. We're not going to, I understand those. I respect those. And I'm not saying, Florida overpay kids. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying though, like when we talk about why Florida doesn't land some kids, NIL is part of it. And as a university, maybe you just accept that because you're not being competitive with all these kids, right? And I think part of why Florida's been somewhat tentative to get really invested with these NIL recruitments is because of what's happened in the past. And I'm not even talking about Jaden Rashada. I'm not talking about the Jaden Rashada situation because I think that was a unique situation, 1 in a million type deal. Okay. Just the way that it played out, 1 in a million, right? Okay. What I am talking about is kids like Jamonta Waller and Amaris Williams, where Florida went, you know what? Yeah, we're going to get really competitive here financially. Neither of those kids are Florida Gators right now. Okay. I think that specifically those 2 cases are 2 of the cases that are making the Florida Gators go, yeah, we're going to be a little bit more tentative with getting into these NIL recruitments. I understand it. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it, but I understand it. And I think that's important to recognize some of the cause for concern where you can have answers. You need to win more games. Florida shouldn't be in a spot where you need to go, oh yeah, win some games to prove you'll still have a job, and then I'll consider committing to you. Florida shouldn't be in that spot. Oh, other schools are just outbidding you. Florida shouldn't be in that spot if they feel that they like the kid but they just can't match it. Like that, I think that's also an important distinction. Can't match and won't match does matter. Just want to make that one abundantly clear. Because there are kids where you go, he's a 3 to 4, like a high 3, low 4-star player at a non-premium position. Do we want to even do that? We can spend money elsewhere, especially if we're talking portal, which Florida will be talking portal a lot this winter, regardless of what happens. But I understand that. But I feel like there are some situations where it's like, oh yeah, like we can't really match that. If that's ever a thing, it's incredibly frustrating, is it not, to be a Florida Gators fan and then be Florida Gators with all that and be frustrated about how things play out, even if you have the answers? I think that's fair. I do. I think that's fair. But then there's also the current recruiting class, which I do think, not a lot of kids in there, but pretty damn good football players in there. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets to the first pitch. So with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And you can buy more. You can buy WNBA tickets on Game Time. Florida, Miami at Florida. Buy that on Game Time. If you're going to the game, I'll be there. I promise you I'm getting my tickets. I haven't bought them yet, but I promise you I'm buying them on Game Time, just so you're aware of that. I went to see Shabuzi this past Saturday perform. Bought those tickets on Game Time. Hell of a show. Had a blast with it. Great weather. It was outdoors. It was fun. I'm not going to brag, but it was fun. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE with no spaces for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Don't forget to follow Whole Nine Sports at WHOLENINE Sports on YouTube. We're a week away from EA Sports, or 8 days away from EA Sports College Football 25, and we will have a Florida Gators dynasty up there. I'm just saying. But the Florida Gators class right now for 2025 has 8 kids committed to it. 8. That's not a good spot to be in right now. When we were talking about, they're at 6 in March, it was like, okay, well, 6 in March is fine. 8 in early July isn't awesome, okay? And I will say that with this class, also looking at it, it's weird how it's working out, because you've got 8 commits right now. 4 of them are at running back or tight end, okay? That's just do with that information with you will. Like do whatever you want with it, right? If you think, hey, you've got those 2 positions done for 2025, great. However, you could also look at it and say, well, half of their class is at non-premium positions. That's not an awesome spot to be in, right? One of those commits is at punter, which, no shade for punters. Love special teams. I've interviewed many special teamers in my time. We had a punter on here not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken, when Joe Houston got hired. Pretty sure we brought in a punter. But again, no shade. But that means those other 600 plus offensive snaps and 600 plus defensive snaps that are played in a season are not being addressed with that commit. You have 7 commits right now that are addressing those 1,200 plus snaps. That's not an awesome spot to be in. That's my point with it. Like, again, nothing against a punter. I do think that, punters are on the field for significantly less, and those individual snaps are worth more than any other any other random individual snap. If a punter is on the field, odds are that snap matters a lot on just a points per snap basis, right? Points per play basis, whatever. But you also have to worry about all those other snaps, and that's not being counted there. I think that's very important. So 5 of your 8 commits are at non-premium positions with running backs, and tight ends, and a punter. Okay. Then you have your 2 D linemen, which you can argue aren't premium positions if they're not the pass rushing type, which for Florida right now, I think that both of the guys you have are the pass rushers. I do. I think that Jalen Wiggins going to be an edge most likely. And I think that Jeremiah McLeod's probably going to be a 3 tech that's supposed to be shooting gaps and making plays against the run, or making plays as a pass rusher, hopefully against the run as well, but as a pass rusher. So I think you can count them as premium. And then, of course, you've got Joshua Moore, wide receiver, premium player, premium position. Despite what, for some reason, 24/7 has him as unranked nationally. Wild to me. Absolutely bonkers. But I also will say right now, we're still at a spot where a lot of these recruiting sites are way off on kids, and they're not usually that far off. Okay. But for Florida, like, quantity in this class is there. I want to make that clear. Also, it is nice to know that Florida's done at running back and tight end for the 2025 cycles. You've got your guys. That's awesome. Now you can add focus elsewhere with those same coaches. Okay, like Russ Callaway. He's your tight end coach. However, he's also your co-offensive coordinator, which means that he should have a hand in every offensive recruit, right? Or every offensive recruitment. Russ Callaway, now that he's got his 2 tight ends locked down, he can, keep in touch, texting them every now and then and being in touch with that. But he can also talk to receivers, offensive linemen, please, any quarterback you're looking at. He could talk to anybody else on offense and say, hey, we can use you like this. And you're hearing that straight from the horse's mouth because I'm the co-offensive coordinator. I have a say in the game plan. I have a say in play calling. I have a say in this, that, and the third. You can use that as Russ Callaway. Not so much with Jabbar Luke, but there's still plenty of impact he can make. Like, you don't have to be only recruiting your position. In fact, it could seem more important or make a player feel more like a priority if I'm a receiver and they're using their receivers coach, their co-OC that's also their tight ends coach, and their running backs coach, and they're all pursuing me. Maybe I feel, a bit special there as a recruit, right? So I do think that having tight end specifically locked up for Russ Callaway is big for recruiting. Hopefully we see some traction there. However, again, like last segment, win games, NIL, those things, they're not going away during the summer. They're just not. You need to wait until games are played for Florida. So things are probably going to continue to be rough for the next couple months. If you don't like recruiting being bad, maybe just cover your eyes, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That's the thing, right? Maybe try that. And like I said, the quality in this class is great. Using On3's just their website, not necessarily their rankings, but I'm looking at their website just because they show all the other recruiting services in one, like a one sheet type thing. That's great. 6 of the Florida Gators 8 commits right now have at least one of the main 4 recruiting services listing them as a 4-star. So 6 of the 8, depending on where you look, blue chip ratio could be as high as 75%. Pretty damn good. Micah Jones is, okay, punter Hayden Craig is one of them. A lot of sites just don't have punter rankings really up. You could look at like Cole's Kicking Camp for how they rank punters and kickers. I will say I think those are very favorable to have them. But yeah, Hayden Craig's a 3-star on 3 sites. Rivals has him as a 3-star, but doesn't have any more information available. At least On3 and 24/7 have him as the top player in Maine and the 3rd punter in the country. Okay. So there's that. ESPN doesn't have a ranking for him. And then there's Micah Jones at tight end, who he's the unanimous 3-star. And that's fine because I like when I look at Micah Jones, I look at him as someone that should be toward the bottom of the class. I think Tayshawn Gelsey will eventually pass him on pretty much every recruiting service that he hasn't passed him on yet. Just think that he's built like that at tight end, to be honest. I think that he presents a lot of upside and is very exciting about that. But Micah Jones is a 3-star that I'm fine with him being a 3-star. I think he stays a 3-star. And that's fine. Like when I look at a 3-star, I'm not looking at him as, oh, you need to be a superstar. I'm looking at you can fill a role. I look at a 3-star like a day 3 draft pick. Can you fill a role? Great. Perfect. Come in here and do it. call it a day. And I think Micah Jones can do that as the inline tight end. That's a non-premium position, a non-premium role, still a very important position, still a very important role, but the non-premium's there. Great ad. Great ad. Like, you could play that gritty role. He already plays it. That's one thing I love about Micah Jones. I don't think his ranking goes up. I don't know if it should. I think it's fine where he's ranked. However, I think right now he's a high school player that is playing in line, doing it pretty well enough to get SEC offers, and is probably going to play that role at the next level too, so he's experienced there. Similar to Chad Gasper, playing in a pistol offense already. He's used to running out of pistol. He's used to playing out of there. Okay? Quality isn't the issue for me. Quantity is the issue for me. Like I've said, quantity is the issue here. Quality is fine. I honestly, it's weird because like I like the kids in the class. I like the quality of the kids in the class, but even then, I still think you should have more 4 stars. Like I think you should have more blue chip players. But the kids that you have committed right now, feel good about. Then there's all the other kids that Florida's in on, pushing for, whatever you want to talk about. And again, a lot of these will not be answered until signing day, for being honest. I think that you have a better chance of writing kids off before signing day than you have a chance of writing kids in before signing day. And by that, I mean, I think that, with a strong season, you might add a few kids, but I think that if you have a strong season, some kids might still go, you know what? I'm open to you now, but I'm not just going to flip right away. I've been committed to these guys. Like, it could happen with Hilton Stubbs. Hilton Stubbs is someone that I've said I believe he wants to be a Florida Gator. Right now, we know, look, being completely honest, and I don't have an issue with this at all. He committed to USC. I'm assuming got an IL for it, whatever it is. We acknowledge that recruiting's a dirty game here. I'm assuming got an IL for it. Great. Decommitted, committed to Miami. The whole conversation was, Miami's up in the bag. Miami's up in the bag. Even Miami fans are going, we're up in the bag. We're up in the bag, whatever it is. That's fine. I don't care. I still think that he would want to be a Florida Gator, and he's openly said, I got to see it from Florida this year before I even consider them, truly. So see it. But maybe by then, even when you win games, he goes, you know what? I've been committed here for a while. I feel pretty good about it. I'm going to stay. It's a possibility. So I do think that, and there's, Florida, if you have some rough games, probably going to be like, all right, well, we know we're not getting this kid. So I do think that it's easier to write kids off there than to write kids on. But there's a lot of names that Florida still is pursuing. Vernell Brown III, legacy kid, still feel good about him based on who I spoke to recently. Still feel presently good about him. Still feel good about where Florida presently stands with Vernell Brown III as he, again, targets a July commitment. Don't know exactly when, but targets a July commitment. Nayshawn Montgomery. He pushed back his commitment. He was supposed to commit it throughout the summer. Didn't have a specific date. But then he was like, you know what? I'll probably commit after my first or second game in high school, or my first or second game of high school senior year. Fine. I spoke to someone late last week, and I sent this to the insider program as well. Spoke to someone late last week. They still feel good about Nayshawn to Florida. I don't know if he wants to see how the Miami game goes, and he's like, all right, like you proved something to me there. We're talking. I don't know if that's what he's waiting for before he commits to it. Like, maybe he doesn't want to be a kid that commits. They have a bad year and he decommits. Maybe he wants to just commit to a place where he feels he can commit to and stay there. That's fine. Tavares Dice, offensive tackle, currently committed to Auburn. Connection I have with Auburn, I mentioned this to the insiders 2 weeks ago, if not longer. I've mentioned it on the show. Connection I have with Auburn said that, hey, Auburn feels really confident that they're going to retain Tavares Dice right now, as things presently stand. They feel really good about it. I don't know if that's NIL, wins, bad offensive line recruiting. I don't know what it is, but I'm not stoked about it. Again, because I feel like Tavares Dice, while he's been committed to Auburn, was one that Florida probably should have made more movement on. Because for a while, it felt like it was 50-50, and usually the team that has the initial commitment doesn't win those, and Florida let Auburn win that one, at least how it presently stands. Their safety, Ivan Taylor, out of West Orange. Ike Taylor's son, currently committed to Notre Dame. But yeah, out of West Orange, same school as Jordan Castell in the 2023 class. Hopefully they've got some kind of rapport where Jordan Castell can go, hey, like this Will Harris dude's legit. Like you want to come play for him, whatever it is. Florida started to get more chatty with him. And by that, I mean, Florida was like, mum's the word on him. Was not really talking. But from my knowledge, they've gotten a little bit more chatty. Fall official visit could be a thing that they're looking to do. Would be pretty lovely if they ended up getting that. Chris McCorkle out of Cardinal Mooney in Sarasota. He's someone that he's just going to be one where I'm going to hang my hat and call it a good day if he commits to Florida. I've been saying for months, last year when he was taking visits with Teddy Foster, who's currently Florida Gator true freshman corner, was at Cardinal Mooney in Sarasota. So teammates in the secondary at corner specifically, they were taking visits together. And when Teddy Foster felt like he was going to be a Gator, when he got the committable offer, it was like, all right, keep an eye on Chris McCorkle too. Could be a name that Florida's going to look for, maybe set up a little bit of a pipeline there if it's available in Sarasota. And I've said for months, and I will continue to say, I think UF isn't prioritizing him right now. And I think the reason they're doing that is the same reason they didn't prioritize Teddy Foster earlier, is that they feel they can get him late in the cycle as long as their season's even, like as long as they have jobs. I think they feel they can get him late in the cycle. I think that's why they're not prioritizing him now. He committed to Indiana, he decommitted. I know he's been still getting recruited by Penn State, I think is the one that's been pushing heaviest for him or hardest for him. I still think that if Florida gives him a committable offer late in the cycle, they think they can get him whether or not he's committed elsewhere. Kobe Howard, wide receiver, that to my knowledge, still not a take for Florida. I think he winds up committing to Penn State. I think Florida feels with Kobe Howard, they can spin the block on him late and still get him. I don't think that's a smart idea. I think that you could still get him right now if you wanted to. I think you should do that, but that's not my job, not my decision. Caleb Singleton, safety, DB. I think he's going to be a slot at the next level, nickel. I think that Florida will still try to get him. I'm not too certain how open to that he is, but I think that Florida is another one where they think they can get for him as well. Okay? I think it's another possibility where they think they do that, currently committed to Rutgers. Miles Johnson, linebacker, decommitted from Alabama. Finally, felt like a Florida lock for a while. Sitting on your hands kind of thing. Expected to be Florida Ole Miss battle. I don't think it runs too late. I think that this will be decided in the summer at some point. I think he needs a lot of work, but he's got athletic ability. Okay, and that bodes well for ceiling. Maybe put him on the edge if you think he's explosive enough. I don't know. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants Country and NFL 33, and I'll see you all next time.